Hi everybody, this is the Chris's, and this is our partner,
Chris and. Yep.
Chris and we are doing an introduction to the ship's log planner. We're doing it from the creator point of view, and Chris and was kind of a huge help while we were making it because we kept sending them pages and asking for input and stuff like that. Because they own the 2020 dated planner, which isn't on the screen now. Why did that change? I'm gonna get it back on the screen. Why did it
Yeah.
move? Yeah, I know. It's like, what? All of a sudden, like, my iPad share just changed size. Um, there we go. Beautiful. Okay, so the one on the right is the 2020 dated planner that both of us have that we created. And you've been using it, what, 2 full years? Three for you? Did you have the 2018 planner?
I had the 2018, but I think I started using it at the end of 2018.
Right. Okay, so yeah, so you've been using it like just over 2 full years. And we've been using these planners. We have one, two, three, four, five sitting on the shelf here. So I think the first two were about 6 months. So we've been using it 5 full years. Because including the 2019, 2020 rather. I don't even know what year it is. Okay, so the Passionizing Planner was a coaching planner that was intended to be either for singulars or multiples. When we were about to make the updated one for 2021, because they're dated planners, we have to update it every year, we decided, screw it, we're going to make it entirely plural. Because only plurals were using it. It was us, Christopher, and I don't know. A very small number of other people have had these planners, most of whom were plurals. So it's like, fine, we'll just make it for plurals. Never took off for singular people. Didn't make us rich, so what the heck. Now, this is the title page. We like colored it and decorated it and stuff in ours already, even though it's not 2021 yet. We always write our in case it's lost information on this page and stuff like that. So, please return to or phone number or something that people can find you at if you happen to leave your planner behind. Not that you'd want to do that.
Yeah, I'm
Copyright
doing it now
page.
also.
Yeah, you're going to write it now.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you do that also? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to do another one on, like, how to physically set up the planner, like, and all the little things that Chris and we do to our individual planners at the beginning of the year. So all the copyright information is, first page in the book. And then we have a 2021, 2022 tiny little calendar. We make like a little tiny key in the corner, and we use like a colored pencil and color in like special days. We have a monthly meeting. We like put a color for that, and we'll do some of the holidays and stuff like that on this just to have like a general overview of the year. We'll just like do whatever we want with it. The contents page. So you get one page of making your own table of contents. There is an index in the back of the book. So all of the exercises, the month start page, and the cheat sheets and stuff like that are all indexed in the back of the book, so you don't have to do that. So you could use this page for whatever you want. We figured it could be the contents of your system. It could be the special dates in the book. That's what we usually use it for. Like a day that something special happened, we'll put in here as part of the table of contents so that next year or the year after, when we're looking for something, like when did that happen, we can always look at the table of contents and maybe it'll be there. Okay, and then we have a bunch of cheat sheets in the book. So page 5 is a cheat sheet. So you're right at the beginning of the book. You have a overview of the United Front process. This is the introduction page to the planner, so page 6 on the other side of the sheet with the United Front overview. Gives like a little blurb talking about United Front, and it gives you a key for things to do on your daily pages. You can add your own stuff underneath it. We left you some room so that whatever you need for a key for the symbols you're using, you can put here, and it'll be easy to find at the beginning of the book. And what we do every year is we write ourselves a letter. We write a letter to future us about what we're seeing for the year. Like one of these years, we wrote it on the back cover also. It was our create year. We like picked a theme for the year, and so we wrote ourselves a letter about being creative for the year. And if you have a theme for the year, if you want to just write yourself something motivational for a day that you're not feeling good. Or some systems will write a letter to non-co-aware headmates about what the book is, so that if they just come across it and they're like, what is this thing? They'll get an idea of what it is. Hey, we're really excited to meet you. This is our system book. Please feel free to jot notes in here, but please don't destroy anybody else's work, or, something along those lines. Now, the first section of the book, and we're going to skip the section, but it's a system safety plan. We have another whole course on the system safety plan. There's several pages of like worksheets after this. So this is page 8. There's several pages of worksheets. They're all covered in the system safety plan class. You're going to want that in the beginning of your book. Like, even though it's like kind of an advanced-ish thing, and it might take like weeks or months to finish or work on, or you'll be continually updating it forever. So even though it may not be the first thing you do in your planner, it's going to be something that you really want to refer to often, so we put it towards the front. And this way you can find it easily if you need it and go through it. So in your vision, when you're talking to non-co-aware headmates, you might point them to this. Like, hey, go to page 8 or 9, and look at this, because there's some important information there. We did leave them in here. I thought we'd take them out. But these are the pages of the safety plan. Then we have some annual planning stuff. This is probably like right after doing the vision, the first place we would go is to write down some like goals for the year, or goals for, in this case, we change it from bucket list to a life list, because who wants to think about kicking the bucket, right? So this is
the annual planning comes at a different place.
It's page 14, right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So like right after the safety plan, you have.
I see. The safety plan is several pages. Okay.
Yeah, it's several pages of exercises, and then, ta-da! Here you are. So there's some things to do with this page for the safety plan. Like, we talk about it during the safety plan also. But this is the first place I would go after writing my vision page, is I would go straight to the annual plan. Just like, what's your theme for the year? What are you hoping for? What types of goals do you have? That would go here. And there's some instructions on all of the pages to help you out with that. Next page is a wish list. It can be physical things. It could be non-physical things, like what are you wishing or hoping for, or things that you've been wanting for a while that you might want to try and get to this year. And then we have a quarterly plan. So there are things that, like, we know, let me see. Okay, so for us, like twice a year, we have food stamp renewal. We kind of know when it is, but we get the paperwork from, DSS, the state, whoever. We get the paperwork twice a year, or we have a P.O. box and it renews twice a year. So we would write down like a warning to ourselves. January and July, I think, is when our P.O. box renews. So we would write P.O. box. Actually, this is why we're doing it on the iPad. Where's my colors? There's a color. We'll do blue. Okay. So we would do P.O. Oops, we need a smaller marker than that. Oops. Okay. Sorry. P.O. box in there. So this is the kind of thing that, you want reminders for yourself, things that you got to check each month, or in a specific month you can put into your quarterly plan. And there's another one of these, and you'll see it later at the end of the book, so that while you're going through the year, you might be like, oh, I have to do that next June, and you can just like jot it down. There's a conference you want to go to or whatever. So you have all 3 months of each season there, or whatever, each quarter of the year. There's a lot of exercises in the book. It's meant as a coaching planner, so that your system can do some self-work and coaching while you're going through it. So we're on page 20.
Yep.
Yeah. And this is one of those exercises. It's a 2-page exercise. So I'll show you the other side. This is the cheat sheet with some ideas on it. This is the shared value exercise. Instructions are on the page, and we're going to go over it later in the course. So this is your shared values. You take those answers and whatever else, you can use that long list of values to do the rest of the role and value and role and goal exercises. So that's what the next, oh goodness, like 8 pages or something is, roles and goals and roles and values. These are kind of an exercise to help with planning and goals throughout the year. Like what different areas of your life you want to pay attention to, and so on. Okay. Do roles and goals. And then it's internal and external roles and goals and roles and values. And here's some more instructions for that section at the top of this page. So now we're on page 30. Then we also have the instructions for how to do the monthly layout, which we'll come to in a bit, but we'll go over it later in the course in detail. These instructions go on for several pages. So there's the monthly layout, and then there's the assessments, monthly layout key. There's all the life assessment. These are big circle charts you'll see in a moment. But the life assessment instructions, and then the what do you want to call it? Definitions for the different areas. You can redefine these for whatever your system needs them to be. But we give some like basic starter definitions. Tweak them however you need to. Like for one example, let's say you don't work, but there's some work-related things here. Not on this page. Where are they? Business. So under business, which you may not work, so maybe you're not involved with the business, there's school, work, and career. If you're disabled and your work is, say, recovery, you can count recovery as your work. If it's just recertifying for benefits, you can count that. Whatever it is that it fits in your life as your work, not traditional like model work. And then we have the details for the ship satisfaction survey, which is the second big circle assessment that you'll see in a moment. And we go into how to do stuff for the weeks. And that's a detail of the weekly and daily sections of the planner, which we'll see in a moment. And if you actually read all the little jotted notes on there, in fact, let me zoom in.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
Yeah, I know. I want people to be able to see some of it. Whoops, I just wrote on the page. Gotta use 2 fingers to move. There we go. So you can see, like, we actually said update headmate list, schedule exercise daily. We gave like actual examples in here. So if you actually read the page, you'll see that there's some ideas. Disco party while driving, early to bed, 10 p.m. So your habit trackers and things like that are all embedded in your daily pages. one really cool thing we have is this timeline. So this example actually shows a sleep period in dark gray, and then all these little symbols that map down either to the, whoa, I'm writing on the page again, map up to the A, B, C, D, E up there, or to the other symbols used on the page in the, what do you want to call that section? I have no idea. Here, I know. That's why we have a pen. This area here where you can jot all your little daily things. So we actually put the symbols, and then over here you can see that this person biked 30 minutes and it was around 5 p.m. So that's a 5. So they biked 30 minutes around 5 p.m. and they put it on their little timeline. Now, one of the neat things that we think that some plurals will do, not all, but some, is that my color? I don't know. Is that like a highlighter color? No, it's a pointer. It's a pointer. That's a pointer, not a highlighter. Okay, I thought it was a highlighter. Don't mind me. Here, we'll do yellow. So, like, what I figure is, like, you may have had a specific headmate, Joe. We like Joe as an example name. Maybe Joe was fronting between 7 and 8 in the morning. You could do this. Because I know some systems track, like, who fronts when. So you could, like, actually track it on your timeline and have, yeah, and have, like, people's colors and stuff like that. Or, like, here, I think this person did do that. Oh, here it was. So here, the little and symbol, new little Jemmy fronted, and then they like colored it in gray up here to show how long that person was front. So that's in the examples too. Every week there's a weekly review. Oh, and this side of it is a food tracker over here. We'll talk more about that later in the other sessions too. We have a food tracker, which Chris-Anne uses a lot, and we use a little less. But you can plan ahead, or you can track what you ate. So you can go in either direction. Some people really, really want a meal plan.
I really try to keep up on that for some, because of all the digestive difficulties I used to have.
Yep. We should use a different color because that's hard to see. So, so here, like, and we even took the time to like switch fonts to make it like obvious. It was like different people tracking things. we were having fun. So we were like, good. We were like being fun while we were changing it between like what used to be in the singular version versus this one. We had like imaginary people in our head and like use the same font for them in different areas. It's just funny. So yeah, the weekly review down here, you put things that you accomplished during the week. Like this person had an apple a day goal. So they managed to have an apple 5 out of 7 days. So they celebrated that down here. And they got to see the doctor, so they were happy to see the doctor and stuff like that. So, and then any other miscellaneous notes, like they were going biking, they decided they needed a water bottle, so they wrote that down in their notes, and stuff like that. Or they need to go apple picking because they ate a lot of apples. We had apples on the brain when we were doing this, I guess. I don't know. It's that time of year. It was October. It was that time of year here in New York. Their water tracker is up here, stuff like that. All right.
Yeah, that's moved a little bit since this part in the actual pages.
Oh, it did? Oh. What do you mean?
The water tracker is actually under the boxes now. Versus under the exercise.
Oh, so I messed up. Yeah, you're right, because you wanted that extra line. They asked for an extra line here. So we got to update the... You're right. We forgot we did that. We didn't update this when we made the instructions. So that's going to be errata. Yay, errata. So these water trackers are now here. Whoops.
Yeah, it's not serious.
No, but, still for accuracy's sake, we'll have to change the instructions again next year.
Yep.
So throughout the book, we have a bunch of what do you want to call them? Cheat sheets for you. So this is on page 39. It's a selves care menu that you can look at, and we'll never get used to this, having to use two fingers to move the screen. So you can make either a die roll. We actually made this so that you can like roll dice, or you can pick from the menu like different self-care things that you want to do. So for all of us that are like dice rolling geeks like we are, you can roll 2d6 on the 1 to 11, and 2d6 minus 1 is 1 to 11. And other people can just like pick if they want. But if you have 5 minutes, you can choose from the top chart, which everything's about a 5-minute thing, and so on. So we have a bunch of these kinds of little cheat sheets and geeky tools throughout, because we're obsessively geeky.
Gadgety.
We're gadgety. We like gadgety stuff, yeah. If you can't tell from us making a planner, we like gadgety stuff. If it has a lot of pockets, or check boxes, or we're still absolutely enamored with those the ledger paper. Like, we want to figure out something to do with ledger paper. It's like a need. Okay, so say you've read all your instructions and you're ready to do your next thing. You did your annual life list type of goals. You did your wish list. This is one of the next places we go, especially if it's like either December 31st and we're about to start the book, or if it's January 1st and we are starting the book. We would do these exercises. Go to the blue pen. So our major accomplishments for 2020 is like, the major one is like the ship's log planner. Ship's log planner. Ooh. Okay, so major lessons of the year is don't do it in October. We have burned fingers, so we're not going to write. But yeah, so like that would be like major lesson: do the planner before October. And then we would put down who is about to fill out our first life assessment and the date, and then we would do the life assessment, which we will talk about in another session, because this is going to take a lot of time to talk about if we do it now. So this one is a external life assessment. It applies to singulars and plurals. But the fun one is our new one, which we have been doing for several months this year and like washi taping into our old book. But we love our new ship satisfaction assessment, which is all inner world stuff, or inner, like the bridge areas, like the interface between inner and outer world. It's all the people that are front or just behind the person who's fronting that are like affecting things going on in our external interactions. So this is the bridge, this section here at the top. This is like a spaceship. Back here, in the back of the spaceship, we've got our energy stuff. So you've got your front facing the world, and then you've got your back with all of the power pushing your spaceship into space, and then right next to that we have like more social stuff up here on the sides. So your boundaries on the left and your system safety stuff, and on the right more of the inner communication, and it goes around the circle in a way that we thought kind of made sense. So these are satisfaction assessments. You would be rating these and filling these in and make it all colorful and pretty. Something's really low, maybe you'd use red and color that in. And this ends up being like, if you do it in color, or even if you don't, it still ends up being kind of like a gauge on the panel of your spaceship that kind of gives you a overview of how you're doing. And same thing with the other one. So you get an overview.
So it's kind of like the Cuomo valve.
Oh, no. No, we're New Yorkers, so, and I think like part of the rest of the world is also obsessed with Cuomo, but yeah, we watch our governor Cuomo with his COVID updates a lot. So yes, he's got his panel too. So yeah, that's our panel. Then every month, right after you do your 2 assessments, we had an extra page. We're like, what are we going to do with this extra page? We could either have come up with something that would be the same every month, or we could take the more challenging route and come up with a different thing for every month. So we came up with 12 different things, one for each month. So each month you're going to have like kind of an exercise or a new cheat sheet or something that's stuck in the middle of the month. These are all in the index in the back of the book. You can explore them before the month comes up. It doesn't matter. Or if you're looking through the index and something looks interesting, you can jump to that month and take a look at it. So the first one on page 42 is a gratitude list. And it gives an idea of how to do a gratitude exercise. So we'll talk more about these when we have a class session specifically on the cheat sheets. So we'll be like talking about just the cheat sheets and the exercises at different points. Oh no. Let me think about that. Cheat sheets. I thought we had one for exercise. We do have one for special exercises. But I don't see the gratitude list, so I'm going to have to add that. Anyway, so the gratitude list is one of the special assignments in the book. So right across from the gratitude list on page 43. Right? Am I reading that right? Yeah. Page 43. Yep. This would be right after doing the assessments, I pull information from the assessments. What's not going so well? What do we really want to work on? And I pull those to the monthly plan and write things here, which kind of sets the tone and the projects of the month. And, you know, maybe we already had a project, but we write them down and where they're at and what the next steps are so that we don't get, like, lost in the weeds on any of our projects. Which brings us to the actual weekly plan and what it looks like now, as opposed to what the instruction sheet looked like. So here you can see that we moved the watermarks over. So we just talked about this. So you write your goal here, maybe some kind of tip for what kind of an attitude you'd like to have for the week over here, and maybe some of your cheat sheet items or the big bucket goals that you have here that maybe they're part of those projects here. So like you have a project, do thing, and it's task number 1, number 2, number 1, number 2 of this other project. So maybe we want to do this one the first week of the month, then we would go here and we would say, okay, you know, make sure you do number 1. Magic
bean. Yeah,
magic bean, do thing. And then if we really wanted to, like, make sure we would do it on Monday, we would write it here. So what happens often is, and if you look at the key in the front of the book, it's like that, because it ends up getting deferred. It's like, oops, we didn't get it done, so now it's going to be tomorrow's project. Or next week's project. But anyway, that's how it goes. Maybe you have your meal stuff and so on, and then you go on to the next day. Yeah, so we'll do more about daily planning and talking about how to do planning. And so it goes through the rest of your week. Then you get to your Saturday, your Sunday, and you do a weekly review. What did you accomplish this week? We did number 1. Let's say eventually we did get to it. And what are we grateful for? We're grateful that Chris and is here on the recording with us. And there you go. So that's how, you know, we might make some notes during the week. Oh yeah, and there's one more important thing. The next page are note pages. Since we probably won't be doing much, or maybe we'll mention them and talk about them a little bit in one of the other classes, we'll talk about this here. So we made very generic note pages because maybe you have a therapy appointment. Or maybe you're running a business and you have a client appointment. Or maybe you are on a board of directors and you want to take notes during a meeting. Or whatever it is. It's like, it could be whatever. You go to a conference and you want to take notes during a conference presentation. So now you have all these spaces throughout the book that you can write your notes on. It doesn't have to be that week's notes, but there are two of these sections per week. It's the one here and the one there. 1, 2. So you can disperse the notes throughout the planner, or maybe you have a therapy appointment that week and you write your notes here. So you write your notes, and then your ahas can be either realizations you had, or maybe things you didn't realize before, or a website you want to look up that was mentioned in the program or whatever. So your ahas. And then next is like deliverables or your homework. These could be coaching session notes. It could be like your homework before your next coaching session or whatever. So you have next, like what you have to do next. Any kind of follow-up that you need to do, or action items. And so it goes through the year, and hopefully I didn't leave all the year pages in here. No, I didn't. Good. Yeah. All right. So here's another cheat sheet which is this, page 66. So this is like the next cheat sheet in the book.
Yep.
Communication ideas. Oh. Can I? I think I can. I can't. Well, let me flip
you wanted
it.
to rotate it?
Yeah, I was going to try rotating it, but if I rotate the screen, it'll work, but it'll also screw up the size on the recording. So this one, is a chart for Better Spoons, which is another course on the website. But you'll have a cheat sheet for Better Spoons in your book. You can watch the Plural Positivity World Conference presentation on it. This is a slightly updated version of the chart that's in the presentation that's on YouTube. Meeting agenda ideas. So inner world meetings ideas. Because actually, Christopher asked us for those.
Yep, I did.
We finally got to it. System map ideas. These were some things that actually we pulled in from our coaching group homeworks and stuff and assignments too. So so everybody's getting kind of a bit of the benefits of us having held those pilot programs. So we would come up with like exercises for the people in the program, and now they're in the book. So these are like exercises from like homeworks we gave out in coaching sessions and things like that.
Right. Nice.
Yeah. So some of them are in your planner. House rules. This isn't one of the errata had in the book. It really should be articles of agreement is what we talk about in the United Front books, is articles of agreement, because that's what Dread Pirate Roberts had. There's a pirate. We love this stuff because we're just geeky. So we were looking up like, what do pirates do? And they have something called articles of agreement, and they're really very progressive for the times. And we probably talk about it maybe in Rebels or something, but in United Front Rebels, but we talk about it because we actually found like pirate ship rules, and and so we were like looking at them. They're really cool. Like they have insurance policies on a pirate ship, like back in the 1800s or something like that. They had insurance policies. If you lost an eye, they had some kind of like written down compensation for you. If you lost a leg, they had this other compensation. It was very weird. So Dread Pirate Roberts was actually, I have the name of no, I didn't write the name down. Was actually a pirate. Like Dread Pirate Roberts from The Princess Bride was actually based on a real pirate named Roberts, something Roberts. So they actually have the Articles of Agreement from his ship. So I found those, and that was really cool. So, what are the Articles of Agreement? Because some people don't like the word rules. There's potential baggage around things like that. So we changed it to Articles of Agreement for the book, just to kind of be a little tongue in cheek and poke back at the whole pirate idea.
I like Articles of Agreement better.
Yeah, exactly. So this is errata. This should really be Articles of Agreement. So
I wrote it in.
yeah. So everybody can like change that, but the errata is on the sale page for the planner. If anybody wants to go and check out all the misspellings and horrible errors. Cheat sheet for self-help ideas, just in general, at the top of the page. This is page 170. Oh, we jumped. Did we really jump very far? Oh, we were at 150. Now we're at 170. So yeah, self-help ideas at the top, and we've got an idea of how to break a goal down into projects and tasks at the bottom of the page, because that's coachy. I mean, what can I say? But it is a planner, so it's like maybe people are like, how do I do this? I don't know. I've never done it before. So we've given some kinds of ideas for how to take a role, break it into goals, break it into projects, and then tasks. Okay, 190 is the next special page in the middle of your monthly assessment, and that is reparenting ideas cheat sheet. So this came out of our reparenting work over the last year, plus the reparenting coaching group and all that. So there's a whole bunch of ideas for things about reparenting your system kids or the teenagers or younger adults in your system. Page 214. I'm sorry, 214. We've been corrected. There's no and in there. 214. There is a cheat sheet for system break and trust at the top of the page, and then a suggested journal exercise to kind of make your own list. So on the left is the things that you do that break your system trust, and on the right are the things that you can do to help restore it.
This particular page got glued a little too heavily, and the pages got stuck.
So you have a print error.
Yeah, well, I have a glue error, not a print error.
Yeah, I know. A post-production error, technically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was page 214. Like, basically, if you have a really bad print or post-production error, you'd have to talk to the company and get a reprint.
It's not terrible.
Yeah. I thought somebody had duplicated pages in their book. They're like, I have duplicated pages. Turned out that they just thought they were duplicated and they weren't. 234
Yep.
is journal prompts for fixing self-talk stuff, like to help you feel better. And this is an interesting page. 258. We have a cheat sheet. We have a kind of dueling cheat sheets. So we have the L words and the F words. The L words are quality of life. The 7 L words are kind of self-fulfillment or getting your needs met, where the F words at the bottom of the page are the different styles of fear reactions and panic reactions. So you got fear on the one hand at the bottom of the page, and you have like life and positivity and stuff like that at the top of the page. Better spoons. So there's a reference here back to that chart earlier, page 278. This explains sacred versus smart goals. Smart goals are very businessy, very, I don't know, we don't like smart goals very much, but it's pervasive. Everybody uses smart goals in business. we made something called sacred goals, which are more heartfelt and more about not just like, here's the thing we're going to do. It's more, here's the thing, should we do it? Like, is this worth doing? Will this add value to our life? So, where a SMART goal has to be achievable, so you have to succeed. A sacred goal, and I'm sorry about the acronym being kind of spiritual, but the sacred goal can be something that's just worth doing. Like, we'll never achieve energy independence as a household, as a country, whatever. I mean, it's basically, it's a pie in the sky goal, but it's worth trying. Saving the environment, we may not save the environment, but it's worth trying. It's like to make it into a SMART goal and say we have to do it by 2022 might make people discouraged. It's too much to do, we can't do it, it's too much of a sacrifice, but is it worth trying anyway? So basically that's the question that we ask when we talk about sacred goals, is should we do this anyway? And then you get to the end of the book. So this time, every month you have a review the last month. So here we have December in review, and you would write down what you did in December and any major lessons that you learned and stuff like that. And then you have another life assessment. This would be for January. So you do your life assessment for January, because you have a couple of pages of January left in the book. And you do your satisfaction assessments. Yeah, we're just scribbling. And we have one more exercise thing, which is your system rewards. And you can make like a whole list of your own, but there's a bunch of suggestions there for things that you might do for rewards. And then you would plan your month for January. Even though January is not in the planner, just in case you don't have the next planner, you might want to plan your next month anyway. You do your thing. And then there's the last few pages of the planner, which gets to the 21st, and then Saturday and Sunday is January. And then you have your notes, and then we have 2021 in review. So this is not a mistake. You're going to actually think about the year. What are the big major accomplishments of the year? You might go through your other monthly assignments and pick out some highlights of the year and the major lessons. And then you do a retrospective. So I think it says it here. Yeah, we made in the past year. So we changed the instructions here to looking back at the year and doing a satisfaction assessment just to see, like, what did you think of this year? How'd you do? Nobody wants to do a retrospective for 2020. Hopefully everybody
Oh God.
Hopefully everybody will be really excited to do a retrospective for 2021. Hopefully. You can skip this. If it's as bad as 2020, skip this assignment. Don't make yourself depressed. And then do a satisfaction assessment the same. Like, how much progress have we made this year and how satisfied are we with it and things like that. Right after that is where you have your quarterly plan 2022. So I'm still going to need to, like, renew that P.O. box. Dum. So I would write that in, and so on. Also, like, Healing Together conference. Maybe I'll be going to Florida. And sometime around, like, July is going to be PPWC, I hope. And somewhere around July to August, somewhere around here is PTWC, Philly Trans Wellness Conference. PPWC is the Plural Positivity World Conference. But we would write down, like, all of our big special events and reminders of what bills are going to come due, like if there's an annual renewal that we need to know to budget for and things like that would all go in here.
Yeah, like conferences or various
call
things.
For presenters we put in, like we know Philly Trans Wellness Conference call for presenters usually opens in November, so we would write in November PTWC call for presenters, so that we would know to go to their website and look and see if the call for presenters is open. Or June is usually the Healing Together call for presenters, so we would put that in June. For you, it might be when you know that there's a deadline for registering for the Debian conference or something.
Yep, exactly.
And then we have references, and there's probably a lot more than this, but we have a page of references for some of the things that we talked about in the book. We were on a project for Getting Things Done, which is David Allen's book. That's the first one on the list. That's like almost the to-do list guy, like, of all time. That book, Getting Things Done, is like a cornerstone of the whole GTD, Getting Things Done movement, and things about tracking goals and roles and projects and tasks. It's all David Allen. And Stephen Covey is another big influence in our life for planning. That's more about vision and values and principles and stuff like that. So anyway, so we wrote like a nice list here of some of the reference material that we used in making the planner. And then we have one last cheat sheet, because we just had to have one more for the road, I guess. And that's the 5 principles of multiplicity. Some of y'all have heard these things before, but we came up with these some years ago. Some of them very long ago. This is one of the oldest ones, is ASOAV. That's been around since like 2001 or 2 or something. As inside, so outside, and vice versa. We're all in this together, our shared body, blah, blah, blah. So you can take a look at that. And we talk about these principles in the United Front books as well. So you have a reference sheet for it. And then the index, which has like batten the hatches, which is one of the safety plan things, or the rolling goal inventory. So all of these things that we had just talked about today are in the index if you need to find them and you can't find them. But you do, I mean, it's only a 1-page like index, so even if you forget the name of it, it's probably not that hard to like try and find it. And that is the end of the book. Oh, went back to the beginning. How interesting. Anyway, so that's the end of the book. And we will be back with more details about specific sections of the book. But we wanted you to be familiar with the book as a whole to start with. And that's it.
Cool.
Do you have anything to add?
Not off the top of my head. I haven't used the new book yet.
Okay. So that's it. And we look forward to seeing everybody else in the rest of the course. Bye-bye. I'm gonna find where to stop this thing. There it is.